Welcome down to the shop. I'm Ian, and I assure you I do still make stuff. Though you would be forgiven for not thinking that I do, since I haven't produced a video in, 6 months now? I haven't given up, I just got kind of busy. If you've been following my Instagram, I was working on a local independent feature film where I was making spacesuits, and now I'm designing the spaceships and stations and all that cool stuff. But I've also been back to my regular job, so ironically, I've been a little too busy at work to come and work. Now you may have noticed things look a little bit different. That's because I'm in a new space. Not super new actually, I'm just actually on the other side of the room from where I was before over here at Pickering Woodworks. This little annex area used to be the paint room, but now it's my area, so I've been spending the last couple of weeks getting things cleaned up and getting things built so I can make this place really my own. But speaking of work to be done, the Lorica Segmentata project. We're going to get back to work on that. We're going to be trying a technique that I've always kind of wanted to do. That was using graphite powder to really give it that metallic sheen. I've tried chrome paints before, and I've tried rub and buff, but they never really worked out the way I wanted it to. I really want this to have this look of general issue steel. Not particularly shiny, but not particularly haggard. It's going to look like brushed steel, hopefully. Now, I did a whole bunch of tests with graphite powder, watched a bunch of other YouTube videos, and tried to reach out to some of my other friends in the prop making industry, and, well, I still think I'm going to have to kind of wing it a bit. A bunch of the tests came out pretty well. Most of them came out with a really dark gunmetal, really glossy look, because a lot of them had that clear coat on top, which would be great if I was making a Mandalorian suit. Maybe I'll do something like that in the future if I ever finish this project. But it wasn't really what I was looking for this. It was a little too shiny, a little too smooth. Now the problem with a lot of my graphite powder tests was that I was putting a clear coat on top, and that unfortunately took a lot of that really nice metallic luster off. And I'm told it's because graphite is basically a crystal, and as you spray on the clear coat, it changes the way light refracts off of it, and as a result you don't get quite as many of those facets, giving you that really random reflection. And also, the clear coat kind of refracts light on its own too, so that's going to change things a little bit more and make things just a little bit darker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bare plastic after I've cleaned it off, put down a layer of glossy coat to get rid of some of the imperfections and the little scratches. Then I'm going to put down a layer of satin sheen clear coat to give it back some texture, but on a more even level. That's when I'm going to put the graphite powder on. I'm going to dab it on with a makeup sponge and just really rub it in there and buff it in there to get it nice and even. As much as I would love to say that this is how it's going to look all the time, it's actually going to be the first coat of graphite powder to really get all of that metallic color in there. Once that's done, that's when we're going to put the clear coat on top. This is also going to be a satin coat. Once that's done, we're going to finally go back over everything and put a little dusting of the graphite powder back on, just to bring some of that luster back in that we lost from putting that clear coat on top. If you remember, the internal structure is all put together with nylon webbing that I use a soldering iron to burn holes through so that I can temporarily rivet everything together. And now that it's all together, the first thing I have to do is take the whole thing apart again so I can clean off the tape goo and get the pieces ready for the first layer of clear coat. Now we're just going to get everything set up so that we can spray on the top layer, the first layer of clear coat. Okay, so everything is clean now, which is good, because even though I'm putting on my first layer of clear coat that's supposed to like fill in all the cracks and scratches, there's only so much that it can do. All that tape goo is going to stand out like a sore thumb, and it's going to look ugly. It's not going to look at all like steel, or steel with some weird inclusions that we just don't want. So, nice and clean, clear coat, fill in all the scratches. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so that's the first layer of glossy. We're going to leave that to dry for about an hour or so, then we're going to put on a second coat. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes now, so I'm going to put the second layer of glossy on, and I'm going to let that dry. Hey folks, Ian from the future here. Because I'm a big brain genius, I lost all of the footage involving the painting with the graphite powder and reassembling the whole Lorica after I'd done that. So kind of imagine, if you will, spraying all that stuff on, dusting on the graphite powder, me looking quizzically at it, wondering why it's not getting brighter, dusting some more on until I decide, fuck it, it's good enough. And then imagine me putting it all back together with pop rivet guns, a pneumatic one instead of a handheld one, because that was madness to even attempt. And then imagine me saying, okay, now on to the next step. Now on to the next step. On the front and back of the abdominal rings is a bunch of toggles that are used to quickly lace up the armor. In Photoshop, I figured out general shapes of what those toggles were going to be and duplicated a bunch of them in an arrangement for later. I also made some toggles without the skinny hook part for some other hardware. I then had Matt at Pickering Woodworks program up the CNC router to cut my layout in 1/8 inch ABS, the same plastic I use for everything else, just twice the thickness. While the router did go all the way through, the sheer heat of friction caused some of the plastic to slightly melt in clumps and reattach to the sheet. Nothing a little knife work couldn't handle. Then, once I had all the pieces free, I had to clean them up a bit with the knife again, and a butt ton of hand filing. The plastic is fairly soft, so it's not really that difficult, but it also means that I can't use a power sander or rotary tool, or it would partially melt again and give me more of those clumps to deal with. After that, it was just a matter of drilling the holes, bending the hooks with a heat gun and pliers, and putting on a lick of gold paint before riveting it onto the assembled plates. I'm using a rivet setting tool as well as the bare hammer, so that I can flatten it out mostly, but still leave a little bit of a rounded edge and not completely smash it. There are a couple of spots where leather straps are used to buckle on the armor, but since this is actually held together with nylon webbing, I just cut some straps out of lightweight leather that I later burnished with a slicker jammed in my drill press, and then hit it with some antique gel and a satin sheet finish. In retrospect, I probably should have put these on before I riveted the plates together, but you live, you learn. And here we are, at the end of it. The Lorica Segmentata is complete. And I gotta tell you, I feel really darn good about this. It fits really nicely. I can move really easily in it. I kind of wish I'd taken the chance to try on the one over at Dark Age Creations when I had the chance to compare, but this feels pretty darn good. It's flexible, I'm sure. Yeah, you can fight pretty easily in this thing too. Now to recap, the bulk of this is made of ABS plastic that I heat formed with that birdhouse looking dealie in the heat gun. I then colored it using graphite powder and some satin shine spray coating. Nice and simple. It rubs off a little bit, but it seems to still look good. It's a little darker than I would have liked. It didn't quite have the bright metal shine, but as you can see, it still looks pretty metallic. Just a little darker than I would have liked, although it does give it kind of a more dramatic look. So, maybe call it a win. The leather work here, pretty simple leather work. Cut, burnished, antique gel, no fuss, no muss, rivet the whole thing on. Now these toggles are made out of the exact same plastic as this is, only a little bit thicker, and I used the CNC over at Pickering Woodworks to save myself some time. So thanks again, Matt, over at Pickering Woodworks, all of 8 feet that way, for all the help. The internal harness is made of nylon, because as we discussed before, nylon's way cheaper than leather, and we're not seeing it anyway, so why bother spending money on the leather? The other thing we're not seeing, but is also super important to note, the amount of Velcro that's on the inside actually holding everything together, because you see this leather, it's really thin, and I don't think it would actually hold up to a lot of the stresses that a lot of movement might incur upon it. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and again, thanks for your patience. I want to make some more stuff, and hopefully that means more videos. I can't promise it'll be soon because I know myself, but I do tend to post more on Instagram, so check me out there and subscribe to this channel for the next time I actually do publish a video. Hope to see you soon.